With another thunder, she woke up again, this time covered by a cold sweat, lying alone in her bed. Dazed, she quickly organized her thought, realizing it was just a weird dream. Birds chirping outside and rumbling coming from the kitchen. She looked at the screen on the opposing wall. 8:13 a.m. It was well into the morning. She had slept through the night. With school starting at 10, she had to quickly start preparing to arrive early and bring Yuki back so he could also get ready. She got up and walked to the kitchen to see what was going on. Good morning. I'm sorry, but I used your kitchen. Do you want some coffee? Yuki? I'm sure, she said as she sat at the small table in the corner while her student poured her a cup of hot beverage. Looking around, she noticed a plethora of different dishes prepared and packed into three see-through containers. When did you wake up to make all of this? Hmm? Around 4 a.m., I think. I've seen you had some bad dreams, so I moved you to the bed. Sorry if that worried you. No, it's okay. I'm the one who should be sorry. I should be watching over you and fell asleep. I said that before. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about it. But yesterday. Stop. Yuki stopped her with a stern tone of voice. You remember what I said before I passed out? Wanting to ease your mind, I agreed to your test, but I didn't consider many things. He stopped for a moment, thinking about what to say next. We should just let it go for the time being, until a better way is discovered. Why? If we figure out what happens, maybe I can help you get rid of it. I know the details of the test from before. None of the draws were during the incident, so that might be a breakthrough. Problem is, there's no breakthrough to be had. I know what is going on, and several other people know too, but whatever I or anyone else does, I cannot be helped for now. I wish I could tell you more, I really do, but it's beyond me. The best you can do now is to forget it ever happened. Easy to say that, but working in this facility, she knew there were many things happening she didn't have clearance for. I guess there is no other option but to trust you, huh? She asked, and blew on the cup of hot coffee. Promise me, if there is something I can help you with, you will let me know. Of course. After all, you are part of this because of my mistake. Mmm, this coffee is delicious, Miss Richards exclaimed with excitement, sipping from the cup. So, who is this lunch for? This. I always do an extra lunch just in case. I know Seth won't bring his own. Oh, and one is for you, since I took so much of your time and energy. For me? You didn't have to. The cafeteria has a lot of good meals, and it's free for the staff. Well, it's too late now, so just accept it. For a high schooler, he acts a lot more mature than other kids. But they were taken from all over the Federation, all with different stories and experiences. Rich, poor, neglected, spoiled, all in the same classroom as equals. Hearing him say that with an unexpected amount of confidence in his voice struck her like a train. Taken aback, she replied, Thank you then. I'm sure it will be delicious, finishing her coffee. I should get ready. Your lesson might start at 10, but I need to be at school before that to prepare. That's fine. I also like to arrive early. The school library has some papers that aren't freely accessible. He cut her off before she could even suggest dropping him off at the dorms. You never stop to study, huh? Good grief. Took Miss Bridges around 5 minutes to get ready. Refreshing her clothes and putting on holographic makeup, she thought about how to explain this entire situation if someone would ask her about it. A short car ride, accompanied by the delicate scent of morning dew on the forest floor, was quite enjoyable. Getting past the forest floor in one moment, they arrived in the city and at the school soon after, an hour before the lessons, when they parted ways. While Yuki took care of his important matters before going to the library, Miss Richards was greeted in the teacher's room by Mr. Miyazaki and the instructor, seemingly waiting for her arrival. Miss Richards, we were just talking about your class. Uh, Good morning, Professor, Instructor. It's been suggested that your students need a little push to develop themselves further. In about 1 month, Class 1A will be divided into small groups and sent to complete different assignments outside the facility, simulating real situations they might face. Preparations are being made as we speak, continued Professor Miyazaki without acknowledging her greeting. Don't you think it's a bit too early? Asked concerned teacher. They still didn't fully master the initial control over the influence, and using a catalyst might be similar in principle, but also very dangerous. Your input isn't required, injected the instructor. You are informed because they trust you and you care about them. From now on, until they leave for the trip, it is your job to prepare them as good as you can. Since the lab is non operational, you will take over the practice time. Be given training catalyst and do your best. Underground is almost ready for practice. Your effort will result in the safety during the trip. Understood. Knowing well that there is no arguing with either of them, she sighed with resignation. We also wanted to talk about your short trip. If you could explain, why did you leave with Yuki yesterday and brought him back only today? Yet once again, the instructor jumped in, not letting the professor finish. What they did isn't of any concern. The better question is why him? With all due respect, instructor, but it's highly inappropriate to take a student from school and spend a night with him. While Miss Richards thought about how to explain the entire situation, someone knocked on the door of the teacher's room. Since the conversation took on a serious tone, at first it was ignored, but it consistently got louder the longer it was left unanswered. Finally, Professor Miyazaki opened the door to see Yuki holding a lunchbox in his hand. Good morning, Professor. I just came by to drop this off since Miss Richards forgot it earlier. Seeing her nervous and under stern gaze of the instructor, he calmly stepped in and greeted them both. Good morning, Miss Richards, instructor. Uncle Yuki, we were just talking about you, continued Professor Miyazaki. Can you tell us what the two of you were doing since you left the school yesterday up to this point? Before you say anything, but today wasn't the best day for him to talk. Oh, Dad! Miss Richard was concerned about my health in view of recent events. She asked me to take a break from studying for a day to take a walk with her in the forest to relieve some stress. Unfortunately, I fell ill and passed out, so she had to care for me through the night. He calmly responded, still crossing the line, but in a plausible manner. Yeah, sounds reasonable. Still, you shouldn't leave like that without giving anyone notice about it, scolded her action professor. You still didn't answer me. Why him? Continued the instructor, ignoring the entire explanation from Yuki, as if he wasn't even there. Is it because he doesn't have powers, so you can feel better about your mediocre abilities? Or perhaps you see yourself and your failures in him and are dragged to him? Instructor, that's too much, shouted Professor Miyazaki. I'm very sorry about that, to both of you, Miss Richards and you, Yuki. But the instructor wasn't done yet. Don't forget your place, Professor. This is still a military base. Was still calm, instructor asserted his place in the hierarchy quite firmly. And you, Miss Richards, you should really think about the answer, because neither your research nor your abilities granted you a stable position at this school. Ask yourself, do you want to help others? Or perhaps yourself through them? Saying that, he stood up and left the room, brushing past Yuki. Although he didn't care enough to look down at him, the young boy glared daggers at him the entire way to the doors. I'm so very sorry for what happened here. Instructor only sees this school as proving grounds for a new generation of soldiers. Needless to say, he crossed the line. I'm fine, said Miss Richards, holding back tears. It's not like he lied about any of those. Miss Richards, if I may, Yuki took the initiative. Maybe you're not above and beyond as some might expect from you, but you are honest and hardworking. Not being perfect is a part of being human, which makes you relatable to so many of my classmates. I'm glad we have you. Thank you, she replied softly. Now, if you excuse me, I will go to the library to catch up on some reading before the lessons start. Yuki bowed down, and left the teacher's room. Walking down an empty hallway, refreshing ocean breeze accompanied him on his way until it suddenly stopped. Air became thick, heavy, and hard to breathe. Noticing a familiar presence nearby, the young man stopped and calmly spoke into the distance. For someone who doesn't want to be seen, it's very bold of you to show yourself here. Black shadow figure appeared behind him, wearing a long hooded trench coat that seemed to be dissolving into the air surrounding them. An ashen demonic mask covered his face, with enormous fangs crossing one another. From behind it, a pair of red glowing orbs shone through the darkness in place of eyes. Two red horns protruding from the forehead pointed towards the sky, also threatening the world. Smoke like gas filled the surrounding area. Shadows don't reflect light. He spoke in a low, threatening tone of voice. You are threading a thin line between breaking your contract. Think before your next actions carefully if you want her to stay safe. Home, Yuki knew exactly how to handle him. It wasn't the first time they met, and surely won't be the last. But there was something that Yuki knew, and Shadow didn't yet. The smoke started to slowly recede as Yuki smiled, proud of himself. Someone has to take care of the mess you made. Don't push your luck. Next time I won't come alone if you screw things up. Thick smoke disappeared as the shadow dissolved in the air. Yuki didn't wait a second and moved on towards the library. He still had few precious minutes to spend in his second home, but it was more of a base of operation. What he could call his home was left thousands of kilometers away, and had somehow lost all meaning. With his goal vaguely in place, that world couldn't be further from what he could reach. Sitting down in front of a smaller screen than the public library has, he typed a few lines of code and leaned back. Everyone made their move. Guess time is up. He pondered. It is time to treat this situation more seriously, as the final countdown has begun. Putting a few more lines in, he connected all of his setups into one, disguised as a security program. With all that in place, he no longer needs to step outside his apartment to gather information for any reason except for optics. At least for now. Truth being told, Yuki was ready to move forward with his plan for a while now. He was scared, holding on to hope someone would rescue him. This was a big step with no way of turning back, yet it was necessary. There are things only he could do, scared of what he will lose while also enjoying every last second he has. Clenching his teeth, it was done. Beginning of the end. Well, it would take some time for it to take full effect. Some were instantly visible. All the pain and tiredness left his face as his body relaxed slightly. He was still sick. That didn't change, but his body didn't seem as strained by it as before. For the last few minutes, Yuki didn't move a muscle. With eyes closed, he stared at the empty screen. Time quickly passed until the bell finally rang. Taking all his belongings, he made his way to the class. Starting with geography, yet the class wasn't the same. Miko looked rough from yesterday, and from the looks of it, Amy and Jane didn't get much sleep either. Looking at them and the lack of surface hierarchies made for a weird feeling to spread. Still, work had to be done, so students got to it. Examining different terrains, Miko sped through the snowy mountains, and even Yuki took over one drone and somehow ended up in the exclusion zone. It didn't take long before the machine got overwhelmed, malfunctioned, and crashed to the ground. Still, it proved him with a valuable information. Two lessons passed quickly, and lunch break started. Girls sat together dejected from reality, opened lunch boxes, but the uncertainty of the situation took the appetite away from them. Since Seth is not back, either he skipped school or got caught. Then if he did get into trouble, nobody had contacted them yet. Was it an effort to cover it up by pretending nothing happened? And why did Miku react like that? Even Yuki was acting strange. Sitting straight, watching his empty tablet screen placed flat on the desk. No headphones, seemingly not reading anything. A lunchbox pushed to the side was the only normal thing about him. Soon enough, he realized how unnatural it looked and picked the tablet up. Everybody knew instantly that something had happened, but no one was brave enough to guess. Imagine guessing correctly and being put in prison because of it. Not eventful in the slightest. The period ended, and so did the two more lessons of common after. While nobody really cared why Seth was absent and it returned to normal, Nick with friends went to their apartments in silence. The weekend also went by quickly. Amy trained at her sport in the mountains while Jane spent her free time with Miko, resting, talking, and watching movies. Yuki didn't leave his room once, adjusting to the new situation. While bizarre, he cannot let anyone know there is something different about him. Even in the silence of his apartment, without absolute focus, he can get easily overwhelmed by his surroundings. 2 days might sound short, but it was enough. Coming to school on Monday, Yuki was already comfortable enough with the hum of the world and his new perspective. Being first in, this time, however, he went straight to the class after his daily detour. Getting there, he sat motionless at his desk for an hour before the other students started to show up. Once people started to come in, his composure suffered slightly, combined with acting naturally. The more time passes, the better his body and mind will adjust, so it was only a minor and temporary inconvenience. Soon enough, the class was filled with the rest of the students. Chatter and laughter filled the room for a bit before the bell rang and everyone sat down. Two lessons of common started, but again it was weird. Yuki once again shocked everyone. He was listening to the lecture and writing on his tablet. Maybe he failed at blending at this point, but it was easier to copy someone else's behavior than to create his own. Even the teacher observed him quietly for a while, but shook back to the lesson soon enough. Lunch came and everything was back in order. Yuki sat alone, reading. Miku with her friends sat together eating their lunches. Although still a bit quieter and more unapproachable than usual, it was how it used to be. Seth was a thought of the past, maybe even enjoying the lack of his presence. Someone took Yuki's lunch with his allowance, and everybody ate and chatted happily for the next 20 minutes. Miss Richards came to the classroom with the last sound of the bell echoing through the hallway. Torn, she looked at her class, composed herself. and started the lesson. Well, today we'll start with some unusual news, opened Miss Richards. It took some time, but today we have two new students, Bale and Gale. She spoke as two new teenagers entered the room, siblings so different from one another that you could never think they were related. It's nice to meet you all, said the girl while bowing down before the class. Bale was short, with long blonde hair, beautiful blue eyes, and the rest of her face covered by a wide surgical mask. Wearing a standard grey school uniform tightly buttoned up to the mask, she instantly struck everyone as weird. Why does she wear that mask? Is she another empty? What is this kid doing here? Whispers all around the class started to interrupt the silence, until she finally broke it. Although my appearance, I have silver power and still have a very weak immune system, so please don't sneeze at me. She smiled with her eyes and continued. Anyway, I'm very excited to learn with all of you, so please take good care of me. Like she could hear every word that was said, she dispelled all the questions with a mature answer. I can attest to that. While she is another exception, I want to remind everyone we are still not certain how underlying conditions affect the powers, supported her argument Miss Richards. 2 years is a very short time to know everything. And this is my brother, Gale. He doesn't speak, but he is very friendly, so don't be afraid of him. When she directed her hand at him, a Goliath of a man bowed down before the class. Gale was massive, to not understate it, standing at almost 2 meters tall, built like a tank, with clean, bald head and no facial hair. He looked far older than he really was. Brown was his influence, meaning rocks and everything earthy. Gale didn't care for people. He didn't want the attention either. He was here because of his sister, and she had her own plans. Listening to smarter people and making sure his sister is protected was the only thing on his mind. Life was never kind to her, and his presence didn't help either. But he failed to protect her once, so he won't let that happen ever again. Drowning in the admiration, Bale was ecstatic. Being the center of attention is something she always liked, but in normal life, she wasn't able to enjoy it this much. Yet, those weren't the eyes she came here for. Everyone was looking at her, but she couldn't feel his gaze, his adoration, his presence. Why is that? Was she too late? Is he gone already? Saddened, she made her way towards an empty seat near the window with Gale following in her steps. Not giving up, however, Belle still looked frantically around the class, looking for her beloved. He must be here. I know it. The lesson is still going, so please be patient. You can all hang around and introduce yourself after the bell. Miss Richards tried to restore some order in the classroom as well as to give newcomers some space, but it didn't stop everyone. Hey, my name is Dwayne, but you can call me Dew for short. A brown-haired boy leaned from his desk toward her immediately to introduce himself. Since we sit close by, you can ask me anything. I'll be happy to help, he said with a smile. It's not him. Disgusting low creature. But from everyone here, only two pairs of eyes didn't watch her. Who is that? She asked, pointing her finger at the sick boy in the middle of the class. Him? It's Yuki. I don't think you should bother with him. He's very sick, and it could be dangerous for you to get near him. But she already stopped listening. Yuki, she muttered to herself. Is it you, Yuki? Why won't you look at me? I need to see your eyes, your soul. You aren't mad at me, are you? Her thoughts rampaged within her head, senseless. Hey, I really don't. Belle stood up and walked towards the empty desk near him. Dwayne tried to stop her, but Gale grabbed his hand and put him back in his place. Hey, my name is Bale. It's nice to meet you. Not responding, Yuki was too focused on the text on his tablet to notice her. What is your name? Could you tell me? She pushed with persistence. Yuki. Yuki? I hope we can become good friends. Friends, huh? I hope so too. What are you reading? Some notes from classes. Oh, is it that interesting? Unrelenting, she kept on pushing, growing more and more interesting in him, since he wasn't in her. Can you look at me for a second? Why? Just because I asked? I think it will let us become friends easier. She smiled brightly. Look at me, she ordered him. Long blonde hair, blue eyes, 160 centimeters tall, rather small and delicate body, flat but well-defined ears with attached earlobes, well-groomed, thin eyebrows. Amazing! But still there are things you can only see with your soul. So, as Yuki got stuck on that wall, Bale was still growing more impressed with his defiance. Was it really him? She couldn't tell his soul looks at hers, but making him could prove slightly more difficult than she thought. Soul, a word used in preaching, philosophy, and romance to describe a part of humanity that's shrouded by mystery, a fleeting part of you that's guiding you to your destiny, ethereal, yet fragile, unbreakable, but easily chained up, imprisoned, and stolen. Was she after his soul? Or did it lure her here? Who knows? While the struggle had already begun, the lesson would soon come to an end. Belle didn't want to let it go so soon. But exactly as the bell rang, Yuki quickly disappeared, leaving her in the hands of her classmates. Everyone swarmed her instantly, inviting her to clubs and the extra classes, but she politely declined. It was her first day. She still didn't know where everything was, and so she excused herself, leaving the classroom with Gay shortly after. Everyone went on with the rest of the day. Gay left for his apartment, while Belle thought about what to do now. She lied before. With the information she was given, she already knew the school building and the city plan intimately. Following Yuki might be fun, yet there will be more time for fun later. Going around the city, she spent her entire afternoon roaming throughout the facility. Shopping center, cafes, back alleys, living blocks, and every other place where people might spend time. Bale had another quite amazing ability. A sixth sense, perhaps. In a world with influence, a power that isn't well understood yet, there is another ancient belief that cannot be fully explained by any rationality. People could see things they could never knew existed, could find missing people by feeling their belongings, and contact the other side. No other evidence has been found, and in most cases it could be debunked. Still, there is some uncertainty. Whether it was mad rambling or if she could actually touch and see someone's soul was only for her to know. Similar to Jane's sense, but also entirely different. Having that in mind, she looked through the city thoroughly, making it a sort of her territory. For whom was this information? Perhaps to the people who could sense the same, people whom she hated, or maybe those who could be a danger to her and the others she valued. Coming back to her apartment pretty late at night, she threw herself onto the grey bed and buried her face in a white, fluffy pillow. Before she could fall asleep, her thoughts raced through her mind. Is Yuki the one she wanted to find? Can she convince him to her side? Will she have enough time? She doesn't plan on sticking around for long. And when the time is up, she might need to cut her losses and move on. As much as it might stink, she already sneaked in without many issues, making everyone think it was of their own merit. There was no doubt in her mind that she could get out without any problems. Her life was never fair to her, but it taught her well how to deal with it. Running away, hiding, fighting back, conniving, manipulating, even maiming. She became what others, while unintentionally, sought her to be. Yet still, she had a soft spot for people suffering the same rough fate as she once did. Years passed on her deliberation until she finally fell asleep. It didn't leave her with many hours of rest before she had to wake up and prepare for the next day. Dressing up in sports clothes, ready for the first lessons, she locked into her new, temporary reality. While Belle garnered a lot of attention in her first days in school, she ultimately gravitated towards Yuki, as he was an enigma and they both shared some similarities. He never pushed himself onto her, as the rest of the class did, and was acting the purest in his interest, which was unfortunately for her minimal. On the other side was Amy, who welcomed her with skepticism. There was something about her that didn't seem right from the start. Small, sick, frail, but this time with a normal set of powers. A big coincidence. Yet she could pull all of that aside if she proved her wrong. During class, hand to hand practices, Amy was left without a training partner since Seth and his goons were missing, quickly proposing a solution to test the new blood. Will she provide something useful or be a failure just as Yuki? Eh? But I don't want to. Belle opposed the idea with a childish demeanor. I'm sorry, Belle, but you need to participate in the training. I can assure you that if by any chance you get sick, we have the best medical equipment in the world. Yeah? That's why Yuki is so sick. Yuki is a different case, replied the teacher, slowly getting sick of her stubborn behavior. Why her? Not only she's the top of the class, but she's also 3 times my size. Don't you think it's unfair? It's just practice. We don't take scores. Unless you're afraid to lose, scoffed at her Amy. I promise you, I won't hurt you or go too hard. Ah, fine, said Bale, displeased, and stepped onto the mat. While she still acted the same, Amy's arrogance was something she couldn't bear. At that moment, everything stopped. All eyes were on them, expecting a sensational battle from a prodigy and a rising star of the academy. Coming head to head in the middle, both of them got ready. While Amy still intended to go easy on her, Belle had other plans. Just for the record, it's not you that needs to hold back, she whispered right into her ear. Quickly after the teacher swung his hand, Amy found herself lying on the mat face down. No one noticed what happened. From the outside, it looked like Amy walked forward and just fell. In fact, it was only a little bit of force that Belle used to stop her foot and pull her on, throwing her out of balance. Simple technique, but her speed and efficiency was unbelievable. See? Said Bale, while extending her hand towards Amy. You don't need to worry about me. While she took her hand to stand up, Amy was still stunned. There is no way her judgment of Bale could be this off. Incompatibility in their fight was obvious, since Belle used her own weight and momentum against her. It didn't take her long to recover herself. Being a prodigy isn't always about being the best. It's also about quickly thinking and analyzing mistakes to improve upon. Belle was fast, so as long as she stabilized herself more and caught her, she could easily beat her. She was right though. There was no need to hold back. Once again, the teacher swung his hand and both of them clashed. Once again, Belle tried to throw Amy off balance, but when she was unsuccessful, she kept her distance, waiting for an opening. Amy had the upper hand, coming slowly towards her opponent. By having a firm grip on Belle was a challenge in of itself. Throwing a messy punch forward was enough, however, for Belle to try to use its momentum. Being fully prepared for that, Amy tried to pull her with, but once again she was fully prepared for the counter, grabbing Amy's arm and twisting it behind the back, but she wasn't strong enough to make her submit. Before she could bail out, however, Amy grabbed her by the leg and pulled her from her back. Throw! A voice of unknown origin spoke to Amy, making her lose all of control. With a smooth motion, she threw Bale at Yuki with all her strength. Watch out! Shouted Bale, but Yuki was too deep in the reading to notice something was going on. With a loud thud, both of them landed on the outer wall of the gymnasium. Belle took most of the impact onto herself, while Yuki landed safely in her arms. Screams and shouts resonated through the room, as it wasn't unheard of for Amy to lose her cool during the practice, but for the first time against someone so much more frail than her. Trying to explain that she didn't mean it was pointless, as she never hid her opinion about Bale and Yuki alike.